Hi, I'm Rich Tanis.
And I'm Rod Tanis.
And we're the Rctwins.
Yes, we are.
Hi, Rich Tanis from Rctwins. Working on a Dauntless by VQ 30cc. Pretty nice model. Today we're mounting the G160 onto the front. So you get a little mounting plate like this. And sometimes it's just a little bit tough working by yourself to get those holes transferred. Well, I got a little method to do that. Stand by. So here's the firewall. There's usually center lines scribed in. I kind of scribed them a little bit more to make them a little bit more visible. And I spotted the holes already, but here's the deal. You know, this plate, you got to try and hold that and get it lined up on the center lines and try and spot those things. So what I do is I get this thing lined up good enough where I can hold it, and I can use a small drill and I'll spot right there in that hole, and I'll put a couple of servo screws in there and fasten this plate to the firewall. All right, so now we've got the thing fastened on there with the servo screws. And you know, if you have to, you can flip it over, and that gives you some room to swim around if you're not perfectly lined up. But then you can sew it right down nice, and when you put your transfer drill in, which is a 165 for this motor, and run it through these holes, you don't have to worry about this plate squirming around while you're transferring those holes, because that's kind of the most important part. We're going to monkey around here with a Bearcat built by VQ. Made a few changes and, well, an engineering change, seeing as how we really don't make mistakes. Okay, so you can see by the end of this rod right here, and there's the hole ahead of it, there's a problem. You know, I just went ahead and marked that, but I wasn't paying attention to where my rudder was, and it was over here like this. So that causes a problem because put your Z-bend in the wrong place. So, it's too long of a rod, it's not a stock rod, now I've wrecked it. What do I do? Well, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that your rudder is straight. And it really is a pretty good idea to take and put a piece of blue tape on it. Goes around the rudder just to make sure the rudder stays straight while we make our measurements and do our things inside the plane. You can see that rudder servo right in the center, right there. And here's our rod coming in. Here's my short Z-bend, and that's why we're fixing this problem. We found a clevis that'll fit right over top of the rod, and we're going to simply solder that on right at the mark that I've let on there, and that's all there is to it. All right, so I've got the clevis on the rod on the bench here, and you can see the little mark that I made beyond the clevis. Now, I know I got an adjustment on the other end of the rod because it's threaded and has a clevis on the other end. All right, you can see I've taken a piece of 220 paper and sanded the end of that rod right up to that mark. Now we'll slip the clevis on, solder it up. And here's what I'm using for solder. Just a 60-40 rosin core. Just a little bitty diameter is kind of nice for this kind of work. Okay, we'll let it get nice and hot. And feed a little bit of solder in there until it sucks right in. And should be all set. All right, here it is installed. You can see I've soldered this clevis onto the end of this rod and put it onto the servo arm. All done all through. We've got a Hanger 9 Super Cub. We're going to be messing with the bungee type landing gear. Now we've had some issues. It works beautiful when all the rubber bands are intact. But when the rubber bands start to die,
Then it gets kind of a broken leg.
oh yeah, and that's bad. So we're going to show you how to fix it.
Here's your rubber band mess. Here's the fix.
That just seems better to me, Rod.
It does seem better.
All right, what I did is I just went to Menards, and I went to the hardware department, and I got that number of spring, number 88193. There's one laying right there. And we just simply put it on the airplane in place of the rubber bands, took away everything else, and put it in place of rubber bands. Now you can add more springs if you like it stiffer, but it's just a better fix because it just doesn't get dilapidated or get wrecked.
I'm Rod Tanis.
I'm Rich Tanis.
We're the RC Twins.
All done, all through.